Hello YouTube, it's Cliff, back at you again, finally, after a long break. As you can see, we have a Dell Optiplex in front of us, quite an old Dell Optiplex. This is the Optiplex GX260, and this was my first ever computer that I owned. Not this exact one, unfortunately the exact one was the mini tower version. This is the small form factor, or the desktop version, I believe. As you can see, it is low profile. So I recently built a Windows XP machine for work, to be in an air-gapped environment for an old legacy program, and I thought, why not try using Windows XP in 2022? And my first gaming computer, my first actual computer that I played game on, because this is a computer that was not ever meant to be a gaming computer, but luckily it does have some features which, in the day, allowed it to be a gaming computer. You can not see my finger coming through the camera, but tried a few different things. Obviously, the video is in 1080p 60. I want to see how that translates to YouTube quality compared to the usual 4K videos I shoot. And I also cleaned out the microphone on my phone, and I took the case off my phone while I'm filming, so maybe the audio should be a bit better. Well, I hope it's a bit better. Otherwise, I'll really need to invest in a new solution. Alright, so enough of that. A little bit of a background. So obviously this Optiplex GX 260, sorry, I also had a 620, which makes it even more confusing, was the first computer I ever owned. It was back in, I believe, 07, 08, 2006, to 2008, I believe, sometime around then. This particular one was made in 2003, and it supports or it's rocking a Pentium 4 Northwood, what I call the first gen Northwood, at 2.4 gigahertz right now, with a 533 megahertz frontside bus. They later made revisions of the Northwood core for socket 478 with 1 megabyte of L2 cache and an 800 megahertz frontside bus, whereas this has only a 512 kilobyte cache, L2 cache, and a 533 megahertz frontside bus. I got my Optiplex GX260 from my tech teacher in middle school. He saw that I was into computers, and he was like, "Here, you just want to take this home?" It was going to get thrown out, or it was going to go get retired or something. It was a mini tower version, so I carried it home on the school bus, and I ended up buying a 250 gig Western Digital blue EIDE drive, 512 megabytes of Kingston Value RAM, and a GeForce 6200 PCI card, because I was a dumb middle schooler and I didn't realize, or my brain at the time thought it would be worth it to get a PCI card instead of an AGP card, so I could use it in the newer systems with PCI Express if I ever eventually upgraded, not realizing that it probably wouldn't be worth it to reuse a PCI video card in a PCI Express based system, even though, I mean, obviously it would work, but I mean, I don't know, I was thinking I should have just bought a 6200 AGP or even a 6600 AGP or something along those lines. Okay, so I used that computer for quite a few years. It was pretty nice. I actually have the original monitor. I'm going to use that for my testing. I don't have it with me, unfortunately. I have it in storage, but it is a 15-inch 124 by 768 monitor from Compaq, and that's what I used. And it got the job done. It let me play Half-Life 2 at low settings, and I really enjoyed it. I wish I kept that computer, but that's kind of nostalgia talking. Anyway, let's go over the specs of this current system. If I don't flinch the camera, sorry, I'm holding it in my hand. But this is obviously, like I said, a Optiplex GX260, manufactured in 2003. Currently rocking only a CD-ROM drive, so not even a DVD-ROM. Classic floppy drive. They had this weird clamshell, or Dell had this weird clamshell case design, where you had your front USB port and audio ports under this little flap, I guess. You also have the service code. I put this Windows XP sticker here because I was missing it. It looks like some damage to the Pentium 4, classic Pentium 4 logo. Let's see if I can flip this around on camera. This table's still messed up. I don't care if I'm getting it scratched up or anything. This is how the professionals on YouTube do it. And on the back here, we have a serial port, parallel port, VGA port, PS2 keyboard and mouse ports, 4 USB 2.0, gigabit, I believe, Ethernet, simple 3-channel audio, I believe, or 2-channel, I forget exactly what it's called, a blank for the AGP low profile slot, or power connector, and 2 half-height PCI cards and a riser. Let's crack open the system. Oh, man, how am I going to do this with one hand? Oh, I think I got it, so never mind. Luckily, our model has some good caps still. So a little bit more history. There was something called the capacitor plague back in the early 2000s. This really affected, I believe, the GTX. I'm gonna keep saying that the GX270 series of Optiplexes, where all these caps just go bad. I actually have a GX272 as well, but all the caps are bad on it, and either needs to be recapped or have a new motherboard. But luckily, this one, all the caps and even the caps by the VRM look good. And I tested the system too. It works, obviously, but I'm going to do some upgrades in this video. That's going to be kind of the basis of this video, besides me just rambling, of course. But under this heatsink, we have a Pentium 4 Northwood at 2.4 gigahertz, I believe. I'll verify that before I upgrade it. We have our Intel 845G chipset, the G standing for graphics. That's why there's this integrated VGA port. The 845G had what was called Intel Extreme 2 graphics, I believe. And the only thing extreme about them, or about that graphics chip, was the name. It was terrible. But, I mean, it worked for display out back in the day, but the main issue is, and with a lot of computers of this class and vintage, the early 2000s, is that their onboard video cards, or video cards in general, did not support DirectX 9. So when you try to go run Windows Vista on this, and if you didn't put in a add-in GPU, you were out of luck and it ran terrible, and you didn't have any video acceleration. So that's why, partially, or a little bit of a reason why Windows Vista got a bad rap. We also have two DDR RAM slots. I believe these are currently populated with 256 megabyte modules. Yep, 256 megahertz, DDR 133 megahertz, so the slower version of DDR. I'm not going to put that back fully right now, because I will be upgrading that as well. So that's 512 megabytes of total RAM. The cable management is actually not bad in this case. Dell looks like they did a better job in this old Optiplex case than they do in their modern Alienware computers, but I guess you get what you pay for these days. We have our EIDE CD-ROM drive, our floppy drive, our EIDE hard drive. This is not the original drive. This is just a placeholder drive temporarily. I'm going to upgrade it with a 750 gig EIDE drive that I have. So as you can see, they routed these EIDE cables pretty nicely. They have them kind of bent in the ways to make them fold up very nice. Which is a challenge considering how many ribbon cables there are. See, there's like, what, 1, 2. This is their front panel connector. This is Dell proprietary area, or they're still proprietary, but where they had everything proprietary for, their front panel connectors. So 4 ribbon cables, and obviously you have your CD audio, which is a little taut right now. And I believe this is the audio cable too as well for the front panel audio, and power connectors, of course. In terms of expansion, we have a AGP 4X slot. This is a low profile slot, so we'd have to go with a low profile card. And we have 2 PCI slots in this riser. Here, if I could get a better video. Cage. So these could be half length PCI cards on top of our power supply unit. I believe this is like 150 something watt power supply. Let's see. 180 watts max power, and that includes 5 and 3 volt rails as well. So not a big powerful unit, but that's to be expected from a business class small form factor computer. So what we're going to be doing is upgrading. I'm going to put my phone on the tripod, hoping things are all right with the video quality so far, or at least not too terrible. We're going to be upgrading it. I have a video card, I have some more RAM, I have a new CPU, I have some PCI cards, and some new drives. So we're going to first actually, you know what, let's go over the components first. I'll do a quick power on test with the original components, then I'll upgrade the components, and then we'll check to make sure everything worked. So I will be back in a second. Alright, so let's break out the components we'll be using to upgrade our Optiplex. I guess to start, this is the star of the show. This is a GeForce 6200, I believe manufactured by PNY, obviously HEP interface. This is here, let's see if I can do this. This is a GeForce 6200 with DDR2 RAM, 512 megabytes of it, not a bad frame buffer. Obviously very slow card. This is not the same card that I had back when I was, I just noticed it now, the AGP, I think there's some sort of gunk on the AGP fingers. I'll need to clean these off before I install it. But this is not the same card I had in my original Optiplex. Obviously, mine was a PCI card. This is an AGP card, and mine had, I believe, 256 megabytes of DDR2 VRAM. Wow, this one has 512. Luckily, I bought this card on eBay with the low profile bracket, so I'll be able to use the official bracket to make it a low profile card with just the DVI and the S-Video port out. This is a very popular card, even somewhat to this day, mainly because you could add it to, or you could have added it to any AGP or PCI based, if you have the PCI card, obviously, based system, and upgrade it to Windows 7 and or Windows Vista at the time, and have full DirectX 9.0C support with driver support for with NVIDIA's drivers. Whereas the GeForce FX series had a gimped DirectX 9 version and didn't really get full Windows Vista support, the GeForce 6 series did. So this made this a very popular series card to upgrade PCI-based systems and AGP systems so you could get Windows Aero. Our next component is a Pentium 4. Let's see if I can get my camera focus, if I could also hold it up the right way. This is a Pentium 4 Northwood at 3.06 gigahertz. This is the fastest Pentium 4 to the Optiplex GX260. This also has hyper-threading technology, and it's, like I said, it's the fastest one you could get. And it will act as 2 logical cores in Windows XP, which is nice. One bad thing, I guess bad, but I mean obviously it wasn't even designed at this time, is that this CPU does not have execute disable bit or XD bit, so it cannot run Windows 10 or Windows 8, I believe. Those 32-bit versions require execute disable to be working or to be present in order to function. So the maximum operating system we could go to in terms of Windows on our Optiplex is Windows 7. Next up is 2 1 gig sticks of DDR PC3200 RAM. I believe this is 400 megahertz. It will only run at 266 megahertz on our Optiplex, but it will max out the RAM. Even if we had 4 slots, we could only go up to 3.5 gigs, 3.25 gigs because of the processor being only 32 bits. Next up is our wireless card. This is the same wireless card I used in my Pentium D video with my was it P5D Deluxe? Nope. My P5D, I forget. My Asus motherboard with an EVGA chipset. Not EVGA. Wow, man. With my my Asus board with an Enforce chipset, the Enforce, I believe 650 SLI or 750 SLI. This is not the same card, much like the computer, but it is the same chip, or it was the same one that I had bought in the past. So this is what I used to connect to my wireless network back in the day when I was running XP. This I definitely didn't have on my Optiplex. This is a Creative Sound Blaster Live model CT4780. I believe this is the Dell connector that I need in order to hook it up to the front panel. This will give us a little bit better audio out than the integrated SoundMax chipset on the motherboard. It would have been a nice thing to have back in the day to get some creative support. I think this might be the cut down EMU 101 or 10K. This might be the one that has features missing, I believe, but it'll make a decent upgrade compared to the onboard sound of the Optiplex. Like I said, I also need to make a correction. We have a 500 gig, not a 750 gig IDE drive, but it was 7200 RPM. So a lot of storage. This was double the storage I had back in the day. So that's going to be nice. But I can't put it all in a frame anymore because I'm running out of space. And our last component is a light-on DVD drive with dual layer support, which was something that might have been important back in the day to you, depending on what you're doing. So that really concludes it for components. I'm going to do a quick power on with the system currently. I'll just make sure it's working, and then I'll show you the installation of all the upgrades. So I will be right back. Alright, as you can see, I have the machine powered on and working. If my camera could focus a little bit better, let's see if we can do some adjustment right here. I just replaced the clock battery too as well, so that's why the time is wrong. Diskette drive is correct. Yep, a hard drive. We've got an 80 gig kernel installed. Our CD-ROM reader. That's not even writer, just reader. Let's see if we could check in some information. This really brings me back. This is obviously the first BIOS I ever used, so it's interesting to see or see it modernly. I prefer this better than the current BIOSes of today because it is simple and it works fine. So that's really all you need to ask from a BIOS. I hate all this graphical stuff they've been doing. So that's just boomer me speaking. So let's get back to this. Our CPU is obviously the 2.4 gigahertz Pentium 4 Northwood at 533 megahertz front side bus with a half meg of L2 cache. Let's see what else we have. Information. We have our 256. Oh, I didn't install the other memory module. I just left it sitting in there. Okay, I don't need to fix that. It is running at 266 megahertz. I thought it was not. I thought it was half speed, but our AGP aperture is 128 megabytes. Let's see, is there anything else I could change in here? Sound on, network card on. See, that all looks. I'm gonna have to change this anyway. UDMA, let's turn that off. We don't need that. Was it left or right? Okay. So primary radio controller is gonna be auto or onboard. Okay. Let's see. IRQs. Hopefully those are all good. Power management. Not much to really do on here. So, but this is good. Just making sure everything is working. I am going to go ahead, turn the system off, reorientate the camera, and see if I can do a time-lapse video. That'd be kind of cool of me upgrading the components. So I'll be right back. Alright, with the magic of video editing, hopefully you have just saw a montage of me upgrading the components in the Optiplex. Now for the moment of truth. Let's see if they all work. So let me go ahead and hit the power button. Oh, so far no explosions, which is always a nice thing. Might need to change the input on my monitor. Yes, let's do that. Oh, I got a post, so that's good. Alright, monitor, come on. Let's see. There we go. Oh, no, power saving mode. No, I don't want to do that. I want to go to a different input. Oh. hitting all the buttons. Just want to do that. Okay, maybe I need to plug in the BGA cable. Technical difficulties, be right back. Problem resolved. Turns out, off camera, I had cleaned off the gunk, or like the glue that was on the AGP card, or the GeForce. I didn't get all of it, so we didn't have any video out. So I pulled the video card and tested the system. Everything booted up with integrated graphics, and then I just cleaned off the connector some more, and we are in. So as you can see, we have our Pentium 4 at 3.06 gigahertz, all working fine. So everything I bought on eBay turns out was good. I'll set the time in a little bit. I'll probably do that off camera. Our diskette drive is still there. We have our 500 gig hard drive. It's correctly detected by the BIOS. It's not dead, which is a good thing. And our CD-ROM, or technically our DVD-ROM, was it? Could I change this off auto? Yeah, auto. I think just is for if it was a hard disk drive. So it has our DVD drive detected. See, boot system, USB device. Interesting. I didn't know this would support that. Yep, EIDE disk hard drive C. Our memory information, we're up to 2 gigs of DDR RAM. So maxing it out, and whatever it could be maxed out. For the aperture, I never knew what really to set it as. There's always been conflicting guides, so I'll just leave it as 128 megabytes. Don't really know what else to put it as. I think it's either half the VRAM or a quarter of the VRAM, but if it's a quarter of the VRAM, 128 megabytes will be fine. Our CPUs enable hyper-threading since this model supports it, and as we can see, 3.06 gigahertz, the fastest processor you can get on the GX260. Weird thing with the cooler, I think that was I don't know, there was no thermal compound in the CPU. That could have been what's it called, a graphite shim, maybe, that was on top of it, but I ended up putting thermal paste on there. I also repasted the GPU. I don't know if I should have done either, but, well, it's working, I guess, if both things are working. So for sound, I'm going to turn that off because we're using the PCI card. We can leave that on, yep, PC enabled, yep, auto, that's fine. Everything seems to be fine right now. PC speaker, we could leave that on, primary video card. Could we change that to AGP, or is it just going to be auto and onboard? So, oh, yep, AGP. I don't necessarily know these. We can turn this off if we're allowed to. 1 megabyte video buffer, 8 megabyte video buffer. Video digital analog snoop. Huh, interesting. Okay, PCI RQs, Creative Labs, unknown manufacturer network card. Our we have our Rail-Link wireless card, our sound card, and our video card. So, power management, yep, that looks fine. This all looks fine. Keyboard on, auto power on, fast boot. Does this have UEFI? Does it support Windows 11? No. So, bypass, quiet, suggested bypass. I don't really care. System event log. Display system event log. Keyboard, 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 keyboard. Lots of keyboard area. Bad battery BIOSes. Oh wow, this has never been cleared. Oh, this is all of everything 2003 is what I was doing. Looks like the system was in use from 05. They had a bunch of keyboard errors in late 2005, early 2006. The battery, CMOS battery died. I don't know, I guess sometime afterwards. Obviously, their last error, that was not me. Looked like it was memory size different in 2008, or no, that's probably me. So I'm guessing it ran until I got the machine and the BIOS battery died. So it's actually clear. This is an event log. So, and that's really about basically it. So I'm gonna finish this video now, and we'll get back to this next week. I'm going to then install. In that video, I will be installing Windows XP, seeing what we could do in 2022 with Windows XP. Spoiler alert, probably not going to be a lot. And then I could maybe try some gaming. And besides games, I could also try installing Windows 7 and see how it works. A little bit more modern operating system. Or Linux, too, a supported version of Linux. So, alright guys, until then, I will see you all in the next one. Later.